The night I stood outside Galerie Montmartre, soaked to the scalp and gripping my battered umbrella, Paris felt less like a city of lights and more like a cold accomplice to my defeat. Rain hammered down with an indifferent certainty that found every gap in my defenses. The gallery's windows shone warm, each pane fogged over by the press of bodies laughing, glassy with excitement. Even from the street I felt excluded, as if the laughter inside was pointed, as if the wet invitation in my pocket testified to my undesirability. I watched the party unfold, my coat clung heavy around me. Inside, the gallery director glided through the crowd, her boots sharp on marble, her presence exactly calibrated. I remembered the way she'd examined my manuscript earlier that afternoon. Fingertips careful, lips tight, eyes offering no comfort. "There's no market for writing like this," she'd said in the kind of English that hid no softness. Her hands returned my pages as if unwelcome. "We want new voices, bolder forms. Perhaps in a few years after you're more seasoned." The word strung and even now rang in my ears. I managed to thank her for the sake of the onlookers in the waiting room, then hurried out with humiliation pulsing in my jaw. Now battered by rain and stares, I let my umbrella flip inside out as I paced away from the gallery. Paris's neon guttered in puddles beneath street lamps. I hissed through my teeth. "Seasoned as if stories are just food for them." I gripped the sodden manuscript, tempted to let it dissolve in the gutter, but I lacked the recklessness. Instead, I tramped up Rue Lepic toward my apartment, passing couples whose laughter trailed behind them untouched by the weather or the ache in my chest. My anger grew taut and metallic, squeezed in my throat as I climbed the 5 flights to my flat. Rain squelched in my shoes. Inside, the apartment was stale and dark, the palette of rejection. Molding bread on the counter, stacks of returned parcels by the door, each topped with a white-lipped no. Downstairs, a dog barked into the night. I leaned against the windowpane watching Paris blink beyond rain-streaked glass, every light out there meant for someone else. Almost without thinking, I texted my mother, "Didn't go well, I'm fine." She didn't answer. It was late in Limoges and likely she'd only purse her lips and mutter to my father, "He needs real work, not this." I pictured their kitchen, her voice grimly practical as always. "Be sensible, Paul, writing doesn't pay for supper." Every returned letter from home landed quiet and sure. My brother Gilles would tease, half cruelly, half with a tangible protectiveness, still at the writing dream. How many rejections now? Over weak wine at family dinners, laughter always turned on me. My father's gentle clapping hand on my shoulder meant toughen up, come home, earn your keep. The worst came from my Aunt Mathilde. A sensitive boy, all these years, what a waste. Hers was the pity that dented deepest. Those voices followed me inside the walls. I stared at my damp manuscript at a line I'd once loved. "The world does not end. It only wears a different face." Had I been wrong? Was I just a fool echoed by their dismissal? A taxi splashed water in the street below, snapping me back. I closed the manuscript, jaw set. Before dawn, I began to write. Not for an audience, not for the family, not even to avenge their laughter. I wrote because, at the edge of despair, stories were all I understood, how I gathered sense amidst a world determined to shrink me. Nights became ritual. Pouring myself into words, taking every insult or humiliation and hammering it into prose. I wrote hard, careless of mistakes, not editing but chiseling. In the day, Paris pressed against the windows with the smell of rain on concrete. At night, my fingers battered keys into the hush and the city faded. Weeks folded into each other. Dull workdays in an English cafe, mopping floors, spelling chocolat for tourists, the manager calling me the novelist with a smirk. My coat frayed, my French stumbled. I sent out manuscripts anyway, sometimes doing it out of habit more than hope, numbed to the routine of rejection. But the writing changed. In the fierce solitude, I found new rhythm. I wrote the rain, the metallic ache, the faces seen up close in metro cars and market stalls. I wrote Paris as I felt it, hard, wet, and alive. I stopped calling home, stopped going to readings. Sometimes when family called, I let the phone ring. My father left one voicemail, "We think you should come back just for a bit. There's work, anytime you need us." I deleted it, guilty but moving on. One day I sent a fresh manuscript out, no hope attached. Then something shifted. An email arrived from Camille Brasseur, a junior editor at a tiny publisher in the Marais. Her message was brief and startling. "Your manuscript moved me, can we meet?" I read it over and over. That familiar knot behind my ribs started to loosen. Camille met me that same week, her hair flyaway, elbows poking from a blue sweater. She carried my manuscript stuffed with dog leaves, smile uncertain but kind. "Your story speaks," she said. "Let's publish." The details blurred, contracts, edits, an awkward photo shoot in her cramped office. When the advance cleared, I returned quietly to Limoges, newly unsure. My mother met me at the station, hands trembling as she touched my face. My father only nodded, no words. Over dinner, family chatter steered away from writing, until after soup Mathilda asked, "Will you stay in Paris another year or find something useful?" I froze. The news stuck on my tongue, fragile as tissue paper. It took months for it all to come together. Camille handled everything: edits, design, events. The night my novel launched at a bookstore in the Latin Quarter, Paris was bright and sharp, every light magnified with fresh rain. The shop brimmed, friends from work, strangers clutching the novel. My face stared out from a poster on the window. My family stood uncertain in the middle of it all, mother too formal, father in an old suit, Mathilda with her usual air of mortified affection, Gilles far too still. "Thank you for coming," I managed. My mother's eyes brimmed as she whispered, "We never thought." She didn't finish. The launch spun around me, readings, camera flashes, gulping glasses of water between signing books. Near the end, the store owner flicked on the television, local news running a spot. Rising star Paul Duman, new literary voice. The segment flashed manuscript pages, interviews with Camille, even praise from critics who'd once dismissed me. I watched my family. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Mathilda covered her mouth, Gilles blinked hard, face awkward. My father's hand rested on my shoulder, heavy and warm. As the crowd thinned, Gilles clasped my arm, voice unsure for the first time I could remember. "I was wrong, Paul. I'm sorry. We just wanted you safe." Mathilda handed her untouched copy with a shaky smile. "Write something for me, would you?" Her skepticism had always been her way of hoping not to watch me fail. Signing her book, I realized something in her had shifted too. Out on the sidewalk, as rain prickled the city, my mother hugged me tight. "Come home sometimes," she murmured. "Be proud." That night, alone by my window, I held my finished novel. Paris pulsed outside, brilliant and indifferent as always. I wasn't healed, I still doubted, still remembered every rejection, but those old wounds felt like history, not threats. Success, I realized, doesn't mend you. It's another place to return to, changed by scars. Rain slicked the glass. This time I let it come.